Well, welcome back, everyone. And as the title said, the season extension technologies. We're going to be covering how to make the season longer without using heat. More of saving heat rather than putting heat in. I realize that you're extending the season by putting heat into a greenhouse, and in Canada, that's a fairly lengthy and expensive process. But what we are going to be, the direction we're going to be approaching it today is just containing heat and just covering an area to more naturally extend the growing season. Now, I just wanted to just do a little aside for any of our customers that are from Eastern Canada that are present. The greenhouses that are pictured here are in Antigonish, and the covers on those were removed just before the hurricane came through. So the structures are all intact now and have been recovered. But certainly there were, because this was within about 50 kilometers of the eye of the hurricane coming through. So they were that close. They were not taking any chances. But this also highlights how, in a lot of cases, for many of the growers, it's a combination of things. The tunnel on the right is a very low cost way of extending the season, whereas some of the crops that they're producing require a little bit more care and protection, and so that becomes the full-fledged greenhouse. Now, one of the critical functions of season extension technology is, and especially when doing it from an organic perspective, is that the soil needs to be prepared in advance. So as you can see in this slide, a fairly large area has been worked up, and then the structures get put onto it after the fact. And this will, because chemicals are not being used, this will allow them to work with a fresh set or a fresh state of soil. It also, by having the soil being outside of a greenhouse, which is obviously a much more natural environment, the soil will regenerate and be ready for use when the structures get put on top of it. Most of the season extension capacity of farmers is used with tunnels, simply because it is so economical and it is so versatile. It is a very simple method to relocate the structures onto fresh soil. Now, as you can see, in the top photograph here, there is a ground cover that is being used. Ground cover is a very common product in season extension technology, and what the growers will do is burn holes into the fabric so that they have on a particular grid, so that they can plant plants. And then what what is being done is that when the structure is being moved, it's being shifted up like half a pattern. So if, for example, and okay, so if I'll use the example of 1 meter, 1 meter by 1 meter, simply because it's easy. In the next application, the structure will be shifted half a pattern so that any of the location where everything is planted is now in between where the other stuff was planted before. The next time this is used, they can shift half a pattern lengthwise and then half a pattern back. So basically you're using, you're planting in a new spot each time just by relocating that fabric, but you're using it in the same shelter. Now, the way that a tunnel is ventilated, and this is sort of an overlap of the previous talk, is by sliding the plastic up the side of the building. So as you can see, it's open along the side. The key to a tunnel working properly is that the ropes are tight. And I'm talking extremely tight. The proper sequence of installing the ropes is to do the rope in 3 consecutive passes. So the ropes are going back and forth across the tunnel. You tighten them a little bit going down the length of the building, then you go back and you tighten them some more, and then you tighten them some more again. That allows the ropes to be evenly tight. You're not getting major dips at one end and no dips at the other end. But also then when you're getting into the ventilation, you can slide that up and there's enough tension on the rope that it holds the plastic up. When one of the challenges that growers face with that is when you're pulling the plastic up, you could potentially get a pocket of rainwater that will push it down. So if you're going to be up for an extended period of time, the easiest way is to just pull the plastic underneath so that there's no capacity for a pocket. Now, the benefit of a tunnel, as I said, is that it's economical and it's versatile. But there are a lot of things about it that are drawbacks. One is that you have a fairly low center height and it's spread out so that the sides are quite short. This means that for growing anything that's a little bit taller, it's challenging. The other thing, as I just alluded to, when the sides are up, the rainwater will be coming in, so you're losing a fair bit of space on the side. And that is why we've come up with a variation on the tunnel, we call it a modified handling, which if you look at this photograph here, the tunnel, the lower one is using 24 feet of steel to be 17 feet wide. The taller model is using 26 feet of steel to be 16 feet wide. Now, so you're getting a lot more height close to the edges, and you're starting to get a little bit of snow shedding capacity. The drawback to this is that by being as much higher as it is, you're adding significantly to the wind load that the building is subjected to. Now, you might look at this and say, well, it's not that much difference, but it is an exponential factor the wind load on the taller unit is about 30% higher than on the lower one. So it is definitely something to be mindful of, because the Henley Tunnel as such, like when I was first exposed to the idea, my first reaction was like, what kind of a harebrained idea is this? Because whereas all of our other buildings have all of this hardware and bracing and nuts and bolts and everything like this, the standard tunnels have none of that. There's a couple of bars into the ground and the hoop, and then the plastic is laying on it and the rope is laced on it back and forth. I'm always amazed at how much flexibility we have in our other greenhouses, whereas in these, the way it works is very narrow. The wiggle room as to making variances is very, very minor. If you make these changes, you're messing with the aerodynamics of it, and it becomes a challenge. The tails on these things are part of the aerodynamic package and are basically, they're the wind braces of it. So when we first came up with the modified tunnel, we actually had the stipulation that they were not available to customers that had no experience with tunnels, simply because it was such a drastic variation of the dynamics of the tunnels that we felt it important, really important, that you have some experience before you venture into the modified ones. Now there are enough people that have it and sharing experience and everything, and warning people of the consequences of doing certain things, that they're more generally available. So definitely it's something to be mindful of as to the limitations of it. There's a major temptation because it's so economical to get it, but anyway. The next very common part of season extension is movable structures. Now, there are packages out there that run on rails and wheels. That's something that we have done, but the majority of what we focus on is that it slides on skis. And so we've come up with a package where it's 1x3 steel, which is one of our common arches, and we do a bit of a modification to the ends of that base so that it curls up like a ski, and so that it can be slid. The moving a structure is very much an education process as well. You need to be extremely informed as to what the dynamics are of doing that, because your structure is definitely in a vulnerable state when it's being moved. If you can. Now, okay, this is comical, basically because, well, I've said to different people, this is an 8 horsepower system of moving the structure. It's a way that you can move a building if you've got the manpower, but in most cases, it is being moved with a tractor or 2 parallel winches. The one thing to keep in mind when you're moving a building, it always wants to spread. So like as the building is sitting like this, and as you start to move it, it's going to want to go like this. So the the two sides need to be tied together so that it stays at the width that it needs to be. The other thing is that when you're pulling it from the end, especially with a single tractor, then the front wants to collapse. So you have to put a rigid bar across the front so that you maintain the width, and you've got ties for the rest to keep it from spreading apart. It is something that you need to be prepared for, that you're going to do the whole job. Like, there is no such thing as starting to move it and then the wind picks up, you can't finish it, or whatever, you have to go for lunch. When you disconnect the building from the anchors, this building is now in a very vulnerable state. So you have to complete the job, tie it down before anything else is possible. This is why a lot of our customers have a duplicate set of anchors, so that where they're going to move it to, they will put the anchors in so that they release the anchors, they move it, they tie it down. You're not into a situation where you have to pull all the other anchors out and hammer them in. So that's an important thing to remember as well when moving a structure. Now, if you could just back up that slide again. Now, this is a fairly big greenhouse. We are doing more and more small structures that are being used for, especially for chickens and for like fowl of that nature, so that they are on pasture. Because it's a smaller unit, there's a lot more flexibility and simplicity in moving, but still, the first time you do it, it's a whole lot better to be extra careful, that you can then say the next time we don't have to do that, or we can start cutting a few corners. You definitely, one thing I've repeated over and over again, do not start cutting any corners until you've got some experience under your belt. Now, the idea or the reason behind moving a greenhouse is in this very primitive little sketch here. So what you're doing in this scenario is you've got the capital expenditure of one greenhouse, and with some planning, you're doing 3 different crops. So in location A, you will have that greenhouse ready to go for cold, hardy plants, things like spinach and kale and certain kinds of lettuce. You could start in there, so that you're going to start, and you can give them protection from the hardest hits of late winter. Now, once that has been established, then you can, and they can take some frost. So like by, say, the 1st of May, and again, I realize that we have people from all over the country here, and that timeline is going to be adjusted for different people. Now, if you then move the structure to location B, in things that are very cold sensitive, so like they have to be protected from the frost. So now you're planting that, you're protecting it from the frost, and you're when it's ready for harvest, you do the harvest. Same thing as in location A, because you've started it earlier in the season, then you will have the crop starting earlier in the season, but it will also be finished earlier. So then at that point, you can start working the ground up again to prepare for the next season. So now the structure is in the B location. you are getting C location ready. You're getting things planted for fall harvest. So at a certain point, B will be finished, the harvest will be finished in B. And now, before you're getting into too much frost, you're going to move the location to C. So now you can continue through November, possibly December, and protecting it from the hardest frost. And one of the added little ways, especially for A and C, is what I've got shown in the next slide, which is you can just with light poly tube make little hoops, and then you've got old plastic and drape it over there for the really cold nights. So like, as I said in the beginning, that like this is more about trapping heat and conserving heat rather than adding heat. Now, one other thing that I want to draw attention to, like in this particular photograph, the 2x4s that are horizontal in here are used for suspending tomatoes in a different part of the season. Also, if you look at the ends are done in a fairly elaborate way. And I don't know if Jeff is still here. We had talked about opening up the ends, or the Ilana about for drying. When you've got ends that basically are like a jigsaw puzzle, you can start opening this up and opening it to the air flowing through. Basically, this person has built maximum flexibility into it, because with a couple of minutes notice, he can open the whole end. There's a couple of good sized doors in there, but there's also a horizontal window above that, which can be flipped up for extra. And on either side, those are on hinges as well, so they can be flipped open. So in a matter of a couple of minutes, the whole end can be opened. Now that is the end of what I've got prepared. And so if we have any questions, speak up.
Jeff had to duck out, but he put he said that he wanted to offer a sincere thanks for the session. It's been very informative, and he's very grateful for you sharing your time and knowledge. So, but he had to duck out a little bit ago. So
one phrase that I've used thousands of times, and it's on the book cover and like on all sorts of posts, is there's no such thing as too many anchors. And especially when you're dealing with movable structures, anchoring is a vital consideration, because like you want something that is simple because you're going to be moving it, but you need something that is able to deal with the elements. So there's that temptation to make it a little bit simpler. And you know, like I said, there's no such thing as too many anchors. I hate seeing flat structures.
it's not going to work. I was trying to show the book, but it's not going to work.
Yeah, just an additional comment about the book. Like there is a lot of information on the website, you know, things to help everybody figure out what they need to do. I know for myself, I'm not overly a website person. I much rather study things in books, and then I can make notes and underline and highlight and research further and whatever. So those are the kind of people that the book is really geared to too. And then we have the ebook as well for people that read in that way. We try to reach everyone. Thank you, Ilana.
If anyone can fill out the survey, if you have any troubles, let me know. You can message me, and I can email you the link for it. Just let me know, and yeah, I can get you that. We would love to hear your feedback about what you enjoyed, and the survey takes 4 minutes, it says, so and it's just a quick thing, and we appreciate everybody coming and being here. And if you send me a quick email as well, I can give you the handout with the information from today, and I will send you a copy of the ebook that we were just mentioning, and the replays as well. So let me know if you would like any of that.